What could he possibly need to say that would take up 11 hours of an audiobook? Oh my God. I listened to Travis Barker's audiobook and I have so many thoughts. First of all, I think there's something he might be a psychopath because I've listened to a lot of true crime and he has all of the markers of being someone who probably would have ended up as a pyromaniac if he wasn't so good at drums. And by the time I finished it, it felt very clear why he's with a Kardashian. This book reads like it was written by Beavis and Butthead because he's like, I bang on drums, I bang girls, ha ha ha, King Diamond is awesome. Like, it's so dumb. I took a lot of notes, but I want to talk about how Travis Barker blames women for kind of everything throughout this book. Not only does he exploit women because he describes what can only be categorized as crimes against women multiple times. I probably would have been a pyromaniac if he wasn't so good at drums because he says that his mom sent him away to hang out with his cousins in Chicago for like a summer or something. He's there for like a week and he sets a church on fire when he's 11 years old. And then he was kind of like, oh, well, I was away from my mom and I missed my mom or whatever. And then a couple years later, his mom passes away and he takes her clothes out to a dumpster like a couple of blocks over and burns all of her clothes, not thinking like maybe my sisters would want some of my mother's clothes since she just passed away and that was their mother too. Like, I don't know. I think if he wasn't good at drums, he would have been a pyromaniac. Then, when he's like 13 years old, he loses his virginity to the coolest cheerleader. I think a lot of these stories could possibly be made up to make himself feel cooler, but he lost his virginity to the popular girl. And he basically says as soon as he releases, he does not think of her as a person anymore. He walks out of there and forgets about her. And then that starts off this pattern. 70% of this book is him talking about hooking up with girls or getting them to strip for his roommate or like something weird like that. Like at one point he describes his bachelor party where it breaks out into an orgy. Like what? And this is the bachelor party before he marries a girl that he got with when she was 15 years old. He's also one of those people that likes being tattooed because it means that he won't get a job in a conventional 9 to 5 office or whatever. And if he's that heavily tattooed, he has to commit himself to being a drummer. But I don't think he cares about what the tattoos say or what they mean. He just wants to be covered in tattoos. I think that's the whole point. I don't think he has a personality or an interest outside of stuff that he thinks makes him look cool. He is like the king poser. And Travis was that poser punk guy who grew up in Orange County in the suburbs, who had two loving parents who supported his interest in drums. And then he decided to go like squat on his friend's couch out, somewhere where he had more opportunities to be in bands. Then he got the opportunity to join the Aquabats. And most of them are like Mormon or something. So they were pretty like straight edge. And he was trying to like drink and bring girls back to whatever hotel room, van, or whatever situation. And at one point, they're on stage at Warped Tour. Some guy jumps on stage, does something to the lead singer, and then Travis jumps up with a screwdriver like he's gonna shank the guy on stage at the Warped Tour. Like there was some screw loose with this guy, I'm telling you. And then at one point in the book, he describes what I consider to be assault. Some other people would probably also consider it to be assault, where he's at a party. A guy says, my girlfriend's really drunk. Can you drive her home? Here's my truck. He takes the girl back to her house and sleeps with her, then saves the condom, brings it back to the party and shows the guy whose girlfriend that was and whose truck that was to basically be like, hey, I wasn't stealing your truck. I just was banging your girlfriend. And like, then the guy was like, oh man, F her, whatever. It's like, she was so drunk she couldn't get herself home. You asked Travis Barker to take her home and he has sex with her. Like, that is assault. Like, and he describes it like it's just, oh, what a funny story to tell out at the bar. And after reading this book, it just felt very apparent he stands for nothing. He doesn't care what his tattoos stand for. He's not even vegan for ethical reasons. It's just a texture thing. Like, he describes his dad basically like a Beastie Boys video where he's yelling at him for partying too much or whatever, but it's nothing really that has any consequences. And he was still very close with his father all throughout this book as an adult while he's raising his kids and stuff. So, like, he really is so weird. And every relationship he's in with a woman, he blames the woman. Like, even I think with the truck story, it was almost like she wanted something to happen. She was drunk, so drunk. She, he's just very strange. Oh, and then at one point, he describes sleeping with a girl who described herself as a nympho, and then he acted like he caught it from her after describing hooking up with all of these women in all of these scenarios and like making women strip to get into the apartment that he was in because they wanted to hang out with him, stuff like that. Then, after sleeping with one girl who says, "Oh, I'm a nympho," now all of a sudden he's like blaming her like he caught it from her. There are so many slurs in this book. I mean, his best friend is named Skinhead Rob. And like, yeah, I know there can be non-racist skinheads. I'm from the punk scene. I'm very aware, but I don't know if that's Rob. Okay. So I don't think it's by coincidence that he doesn't talk about his first wife, Melissa, very much. And the way he describes their relationship in this book is odd. He basically says like he got with her, they were very close while he was building his brand. She became the VP of his brand. They got married, and the night before their wedding, he does the bachelor party or whatever. It turns into an orgy at the strip club, like, which I don't think she was old enough to get into. I don't know if she was even invited to it, but anyways, so they get married. They're married for about a year. He is going off with Blink 182 at this point, and he's been on tour basically the entire time they've been married. He comes home and is like, yeah, I don't think it's working out. Meanwhile, he's like definitely cheating on her, sleeping with girls on the road and stuff like that. And he's like, I didn't like that she lied to me about her age. He acted like he was just finding out that she had recently turned, I think it was like 22 or something. And then he did the math and he was like, oh, that would mean that I got with you when you were a teenager. Like, he didn't know that. Like, he is just finding it out after they'd been married a year. I'm just not buying it. And the way he told her they were getting divorced is he comes home from tour and says, I think we're getting divorced. I'm over it. Sorry. Like, what? Meanwhile, she's at home running your business that you like came back home, started Famous Stars and Stripes, open this whole like store or whatever, contribute maybe some text messages and some connections, and your band plays the opening of the store. She's building it to possibly like a bigger brand. Like, yeah, it's Travis Barker. He's definitely pulling all the strings to build the brand, but she's the one stuck at home doing all the paperwork and shit. And then he's just checking his bank account and he's like, whoa, there's $1 million in here. Like, and I didn't even really need to take notes on the whole Shana MTV reality show of it all because it's all documented, right? But it does show that he really does not think that he participated in Shanna's depression. He's going out and cheating on her, he's sneaking around and using drugs, and meanwhile, she's at home taking care of their kids all night long. The TV show shows up in the morning and she's exhausted and she's in bed. So it looks like she's, lazy. I'm sure there's something mixed in there where she's feeling maybe depressed and there's probably some drugs happening where she's laying in bed, but it's like he definitely was not like putting two and two together that maybe I had something to do with that. Like, oh, I'm gonna have to make a part two because there's just too much. This is part two of I read Travis Barker's book and now I hate Travis Barker. The whole reason I was reading Travis Barker's autobiography is I wanted to revisit that portion of the book where he talks about dating Paris Hilton and cheating on her with Kim Kardashian, because I remember Aubrey O'Day has said that she was best friends with Kim Kardashian during the summer around July 4th, where Kim Kardashian was sneaky dating Travis Barker. And if I've learned one thing, it's to listen to Aubrey O'Day when she has tea. So I listened, and to revisit and listen to the way that he describes the moment in time where he was dating Paris Hilton, had a crush on Kim Kardashian. They all went to Amsterdam and they were like eating space cakes, running around Amsterdam. And Kim and Paris got in trouble for taking pictures of the working girls, which I've done a whole series on Kim Kardashian and her family and how they all, I don't know, have some of the same inclinations as some of those working girls, just on a higher pay scale. So I thought that was very interesting, right? Anyways, I'm not buying what he says about Kim Kardashian, that they never really had a relationship, that he just had a crush on her, because this guy moves like someone who absolutely would pounce the moment he got a chance, because he is dating Paris Hilton, flirting with Kim Kardashian, still talking to Shana, the mother of his children, ends up breaking up with Paris and going back to Shana. But while he's with her, his other assistant, who's his joint roller, they end up hooking up out in the studio like all the time, which I'm sure that felt great as a paid employee slash joint roller, hooking up with your boss all the time who has a bunch of power. Like, okay. Then he's cheating with Lindsay Lohan until Shana freaked out. And it's like, this guy was older than all of them. And he like clearly was a rock star at this time, with lots of power, who was on MTV, he was on TRL, he was on all of the things. And it's like, Lindsay Lohan was probably, actually, let's go to the board. I'm working on this Lindsay Lohan board for a future video, but this would have been around 2005, 2006. So Lindsay, I think, would have been like 19 or 20, that she's hanging around with Travis Barker, who is married with kids, who also is in a band that's all over MTV. He obviously had age and power over her, who is new to Hollywood, and he's trying to fool around with Lindsay Lohan. Like, please. And he has the nerve to act like Shana is crazy. Like, Shana, yes, is a little kooky, but if your husband, who you're trying to reconcile with because you have 2 kids together, is out in the garage effing a girl who rolls joints for him and trying to hook up with young Hollywood, I would probably be on edge too. As someone who's done multiple series about the Kardashians and their corrupt ways, I found this portion of Travis Barker's book to be very interesting, because he talks about how after Kim Kardashian's tape came out, she started reaching out to him and cozying up to him and wanting to hang out with him more. Now, I know from the behind the scenes that this is when they were struggling financially big time. This is right around the time that the Norwood lawsuit came out from Brandy and Ray J's mom, where she was suing Kim Kardashian and the siblings over money that was stolen from her. Apparently, they hired Kim Kardashian to organize her mother's closet. She took the credit card to go buy things to organize the closet, and instead spent over 6 figures in the Dash and Smooch stores. Now, Travis Barker mentions that he was visiting Kim in the Dash stores and how they were so sweet to each other, and she did a modeling campaign for Famous Stars and Straps where she wore a bikini, and it was a whole thing. And then Shana found out and dumped a drink on Kim in the club. Now, this, like I said, is very interesting, because this is clearly Kim trying anything she can to get a reality TV show to get their family out of financial debt. And once they did get that show, they paid off Brandy and Ray J's mom, the lawsuit was dropped, and then, history was made. Meanwhile, Travis is just like, oh, I wanted to see her in a bikini, so I offered her a modeling job. Like, this guy is such a tool. Like I said, this is an 11-hour audiobook, so I'm going to have to make another part. Part 3 of Travis Barker's autobiography. I hope this is the last part, because I hated living in this guy's head. Okay, so then came the part about the plane crash, and DJ AM didn't die in the plane crash, which I feel like is a Mandela effect. Like, I remember that he died in that plane crash, but apparently no. He survived the plane crash and then passed later of an overdose, which is like, I totally did not remember it happening that way. Now, Travis says for this gig, he had to fly on a small plane. I think it was out in like North Carolina or on the East Coast when he lives on the West Coast. And he says that Alabama came up to him before he was leaving for this flight to say something about like, there's a fire, or I don't want you to go. And she was really nervous about him going. He went anyways, and then wanted to stay and hang out with some chicks while he was there after the show, and then everybody else who was on the tour wanted to leave and go back home. So he said, okay, let's do it. They get on the plane. Very quickly, the plane goes down, and he is on fire from his feet up. It sounds like his socks were on fire. And like I mentioned in a previous video, I think Travis Barker would have been a pyromaniac. Then he had this moment where he catches on fire, and then going forward, he is afraid of fire. He's afraid of the pyrotechnics on stage. He's afraid of fire in general. It takes him a moment to reacclimate to being around fire after that. So after the plane crash, Travis goes through 26 surgeries. Because of his previous drug use, he wakes up during half of those. You start to feel bad for him because of that, and then you read a little bit more, and he starts talking about lashing out and being violent towards hospital staff. He talks about his sisters that still could just be two faceless colored blobs. You would not even know anything about them. He doesn't say their names. He doesn't say anything he likes about them. He cares about nothing about them besides the stuff they do for him. While he's in the hospital lashing out at hospital employees, they are like doing things to make reconciliations in his life with like Tim Armstrong and like put things to, like moments together for him while he's in the hospital to give him hope and like keep him carrying on. Like he does not describe them as human beings whatsoever. It is bizarre. So then he's in the hospital, he's passed out. I think he got a new computer because something happened. Then Shana starts going through his new computer and finds years worth of emails where he's emailing with girls he's hooking up with. And she is like freaking out, obviously, because she's Shana and she's like sick of it. And she finds out like he has been hooking up with people, connecting with people the entire time they've been together. And then he is like, oh, I can't believe she went through my emails. I tried to keep things secret not to hurt her. You know what would not hurt her? Not hooking up with probably hundreds of girls while you're married. And Shana being Shana, she just replies to every single email of every single girl, calling the girls ugly. And like, some of those girls were her friends. And the only story this man tells about his children visiting him in the hospital when he's been in the hospital, I think like a year and a half, is a story about where Alabama walks up, lifts up his gown, and sees a catheter in his underparts and says something about it. He is like a psychopath. And one of the last fights he has with Shana, she says, I'm glad your friends died. That's so fucked up. And then Travis has the nerve to say, well, that's the end for me. Our relationship has never been tested before this. It's like, if you listen to Shana's story, even if you listen to your own story, it sounds like it had been tested before this. Because you were cheating, leaving on tour, like screwing other women, paying other women for sex. Like, God knows what else you were doing. And this, you've never been tested in your relationship before? Please. And then after not being really religious, he became very religious, but not on a like, oh, I want to find the higher power kind of thing. It sounds like a narcissistic kind of thing. Like, there's a bigger plan for you. You're so great. Like, you need to be on earth, you know? And the crazy thing is, he talks more about how DJ AM's death affected him than how his own mother's death affected him. Which is like, yeah, he was a kid when his mom died. He was like 13 or something. But still, very odd in your autobiography that takes 11 hours. Even then, he says, AM never talked about his feelings. He just showed me pictures of girls he was hooking up with. Like, I wonder why. Maybe because he didn't think he could talk to you about literally anything because you're so dumb. And I just had to make a note of this. Yellow Wolf is in the book and says Travis Barker is the #1 hip hop drummer. Then it's Questlove. And I roll to brain. Blah, 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 tour stuff, blah, 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 touring with hip-hop acts, blah, blah, blah. Alabama and Landon are on tour with me, blah, blah, blah. Leaving their mom for months at a time, blah, blah, blah. Nicki Minaj taught Alabama Barker how to dance, which is like, we've seen how that turned out. And then right after that, he says Nicki Minaj gave him a lap dance on stage and it was the best lap dance of his life. This is a man who had an orgy in a strip club the night before he married a girl he got with when she was like 14 years old, so.
You trying to have a menage with somebody tonight? One of my bad bitches in that what it is. Travis, you know the rules. Legs open, hands behind your back, mouth shut. Let's go down it. Keep Hey, yo, Sean, you Mr. Kingston. I'll be up with you. Why don't we let go? Hey, yo, and I ain't gonna tell him, and I ain't gonna tell him. This boy comes down, tell him I ain't gonna spell it. I kill him, I just I'm the villain. I come to the I'm the moment of the villain, and the villain is up. Boy, I'm still nuts.
Okay. The one thing I will give him is he did give a good explanation about how musicians don't really make money from touring. They make money from their merch, and he explained how famous stars and straps, like, how they make money, basically. And that's like, I guess that's a benefit to reading this book. I guess. And then he just talks about like how he quits everything cold turkey. He quits smoking weed. He quits like everything because he got some diagnosis about his esophagus. And the way he talks about like going to the hospital, stuff like that, like obviously he's going to have medical anxiety because he's been in a hospital for like a year and a half. His mom passed away in a hospital. She went away because she was not feeling well and she passed away. So like, I think he has medical anxiety, and that's probably why he also leans into the wellness stuff a lot. Like he has a wellness brand, he's always doing wellness shots and like green juices and vegan eating and stuff like that. I think he has wellness like anxiety or medical anxiety, you know? But then he goes on a rant about how he's never watched reality TV and he doesn't like people yelling at each other on TV. But then he goes directly into talking about how he watches MMA fights and loves wrestling and stuff. Like, okay. By the end of this book, it's so clear why he's with a Kardashian. And I think Kourtney is just the one he ended up with. Like, he likes a girl with a fat ass. He definitely likes someone who will turn a blind eye to whatever the hell he's doing on the road and beyond. And he likes that she doesn't really care about all the stuff she pretends to care about, but she pretends to care about. Like, you can tell that that's what he is into. Anyways, he says that he loves that Landon is more punk rock and Alabama is more hip hop because he likes punk rock and he likes hip hop and blah, blah, blah. Then he goes into drums, 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 bullshit, bullshit. But this part I found really interesting. He says in 2014, after 15 years of being in a band with Tom DeLonge, he goes to dinner with Tom DeLonge and Tom says, "I've never gone to dinner with you." They really are just coworkers. Like, what? What do you mean? It's pretty obvious to everyone except for Travis Barker that Tom was like, we're in a 3-man band. I'm having problems with the other guy in the band I've known like my whole life. So he's reaching across the table to Travis to be like, are we good? What's going on? Travis, too dumb to figure it out. Then he talks about moving on with the band with Tom being out of the band and then Matt Skiba moving into the band. And it's like, are you a psychopath? Do you not understand? It just really, not much is going on in there with him. And then he describes his dad getting older as like, oh, it was a bummer. You know, by the end of this book, it really feels like he switched out his obsession with hooking up with girls like constantly nonstop to being a dad, which I guess is overall a win. Like, at least he's a good dad, right? But he does not talk about his kids, his connection to them, in like a real way. Like, he obviously likes being a dad because what that means about him, but I don't know if this guy has actually ever cared about anything except for banging drums ever. Like, not much going on in there. Didn't need to be 11 hours. I'm sorry. It did. This could have been an email.